Well, this morning we pick up another promise of God, another element of God's covenant relationship with his people. And this one focuses on Abram and Sarai becoming Abraham and Sarah. This covenant is the promise of future, of hope, that they would become a great nation, that nation would be the means, the tool that God was going to use to gather all people, to bless all people. That's the promise he makes to Abraham and Sarah. And this covenant, we'll notice as we get into it, is not really based on their faithfulness so much, that they were, like Noah stood out. He was the only one blameless on the face of the earth. Abraham and Sarah are chosen to be these people of blessing to the world, to all nations, because of their need. And today I thought it would be good to take time to reflect on this promise of God for us. If we're to perhaps tap into our points of need, it would be good to take some time. I had some comments last week where people, I guess, heard God speaking through those old promises to new life, current life. And I thought, gee, well, we didn't actually take time to reflect on what God was saying to us. So I want to do that today. It's not that I only had time to come up with a short sermon. That's not that at all. I wonder if any of you remember the story about stone soup. I didn't know it per se, but apparently in the Portuguese tradition it was told that there was this wandering monk, and he would travel around from place to place, and on his backpack he had strapped a big pot and a ladle. And as he came into a village, he would go from door to door and ask for scraps from their table, anything that he could put into his pot and cook up for his dinner. And in this one particular village, he went from door to door to door, asking for a little bit of anything that they had. And people said, no, we don't have any spare, we don't have any left over. And he was turned away time and time again. So he announced to everybody that he was going to cook up a feast. He was going to invite them all to a special feast of a magical meal called stone soup, and that they should all come. So at dusk, people hesitantly started to sort of peer out their doors and their windows and wonder what was happening. And some, with a little bit of interest, wanted to see what was going on, so they started to come along and watch as this monk gathered some wood and lit a fire and put his pot on it. Then he took some water and he filled his pot with water. And from his bag, he rustled around and he took out a stone. And he went over to the pot and he put the stone in his pot. And people are gathering a bit more to see what he's going to do. Well, he stirred and it boiled and bubbled away, and he stirred some more. And eventually he took out his ladle and he tasted a little bit of the water. And he said, it's good, but it's not quite ready. And somebody said, why is it not ready? And he said, really just needs some salt and pepper. And someone thought, well, I could go and get it. So somebody ran off and got some salt and pepper and came back and chucked that in. So he stirred some more and stirred some more. And then after a while he said, you know what would make this soup even better? A couple of slices of onion. And someone thought, well, I could get that. And they ran off and got some onion and brought it back. So he kept doing this over and over, repeating this process. It's nearly ready. Just maybe a few slices of, scraps of beef or something like that, or maybe some carrots. And he kept going over and over. And somebody brought some garlic and some potatoes and bits and pieces from all over. And their anticipation grew. And by the time it was finished, they all sat down to share in a bowl of stone soup with warm fellowship and good stories. In Genesis, God makes an amazing claim. His promise to Abraham and Sarah is that they would be parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents. And there was only one problem. Beside the fact that Abraham is 99 years old and Sarah's not far behind him, Sarah's barren. They've been trying for decades to have children leading up to this. And that has become a source of pain for both of them, really. They've attempted to take things into their own hands and do whatever they could that they might have a family. And God comes to them and his promise is, you're going to have such a huge family. Nations upon nations, and there'll be kings coming out of your line. And all. It's a huge promise. It's a grandiose promise. And as God is spilling out this promise to Abraham and to Sarah, deep in their hearts they know that their pots are empty. But they have faith. That's why they're chosen, we're told. They're people of faith. To be mother and father of many nations. They're chosen. But when we look at these two, we see that their faith is not amazing faith. It's not perfect faith. Abraham's first reaction is to laugh. It's not very faithful, is it? And as we see, even as the blessing starts to unfold, they lie, they cheat, they're selfish, both of them. They do awful things, even in their own family. In times of despair, they'll do whatever it takes. Just like you and me, I guess. But when God is looking to do something new, to birth a new nation that is going to bless all the people, that is God's chosen people, then to gather up all people in all times and all places through all generations, stretching it right into the future, all the way to us. When God is looking to do that new thing, he chooses Abraham and Sarah, perhaps more than any other characteristic they have, because of their barrenness, because of their emptiness. Made me think that an empty pot is a wonderful opportunity for God to fill. For God to fill us up. Perhaps with the help of many other people in our village. So a question. Do you sometimes feel that you have nothing to offer God? That your pot is bare and empty? That you're so full of pain that you've been made barren, maybe in faith, maybe in hope, maybe in ability or something to give? That kind of pain can be deeply humbling and leave us feeling empty. But maybe that's not the worst place to be. Because God is known over and over again to speak to and to choose and to use people who were barren. Just empty vessels. And out of them, God takes that empty vessel that is just a small life and serve a feast of grace to all his children. I want to give you just some time to reflect on what God is promising you this day. Loving Lord God, we thank you that you continue to come to us, that you seek us out, even before we knew it, even before we realised how empty our lives were. You started looking for us. You started planning for us and preparing for our lives. Even now in this time, whatever our emptiness might be, whether it's pain or illness, whether it's old age and creaky joints, whether it's distraction and fullness, and busyness, and so many other claims on our life. Lord God, into the empty pots of our lives, your love pours. Your Spirit pours into our hearts and into our lives, and it is your desire to fill us up this day. And that our lives, that every day would be full of you and your Spirit, full of your leading and your guiding, full of your purpose, that is blessings for this whole world. And that within that purpose we find our place, we find our calling, we find our fulfillment and our joy. Lord God, you look down on the pots of our lives, humble and ordinary, and you fill us with life-giving water for us and for all this community. You fill us beyond the brim to overflowing. Such is the gift of your Spirit to us. And you pour your Spirit, this life-giving water, your love into all this community, that even without us, you're already there. You're blessing and you're watering, you're nurturing, you're planning and you're calling. Lord God, may what you are doing in our hearts lead us into these places, these oases of your Spirit and of your working, of your presence. Lord God, we give you ourselves, all that we are, and just what we are. Because we know our true value, our true glory is being filled with you. So may we all be like that young girl Mary who said, "May it be with me just as you desire."